I want to talk to you about something that kept me on Adobe Premiere Pro longer than I should have been. It wasn't the learning curve, it wasn't the interface. It wasn't even figuring out how DaVinci Resolve works. It was the shortcuts. After years of editing in Premiere, my hands just knew where to go. I could fly through a timeline without thinking about it. And the idea of starting over, of having to think about every single cut again, honestly made me want to close DaVinci and pretend I don't want to learn color grading anyway. So I kept putting it off until I finally figured out the thing that made the switch possible. And today, I'm going to share that with you, including a download that could save you hours of frustration. Let me back up and tell you why I was even considering leaving Premiere in the first place. 3 reasons. First, Adobe's pricing, obviously. The subscription keeps going up. And at some point, you have to ask yourself, what am I actually getting for this every month? I've been a Creative Cloud subscriber for 15 years, and the cost has only ever gone up. Second, DaVinci Resolve's color grading. If you've spent any time in the color page of DaVinci, you know it's not even close. Premiere's Lumetri is fine. DaVinci's color tools are in a different league. In fact, it only took about an hour of fooling around in DaVinci's color grading tools for me to feel like I could color better with it than with Premiere, which I've been using for 15 years. Third, and this one might be the most important, I wanted to be able to teach people how to edit video using a tool that they could actually afford. DaVinci Resolve is free, completely free. And if you love it and want the full professional feature set, including AI tools, DaVinci Resolve Studio is $295. Not every month, once. I didn't just switch cold turkey. I used both programs at the same time for months. When I had a simple project, something low stakes, like just editing B-roll, not time sensitive, I'd open DaVinci. When I had something important, something I couldn't afford to fumble, I'd open Premiere. And over time, something interesting happened. The DaVinci project started feeling easier, my hands started learning the new shortcuts, and eventually I noticed I was opening DaVinci first, even for the important stuff. The transition wasn't dramatic, it was gradual. And I think that's actually the key. Give yourself permission to use both until DaVinci feels like home. It will. The last time I opened Premiere was to cancel my subscription. I literally paid for 1 month of it just so I could make this video. I'm canceling again immediately after I upload. Okay, so let's talk about the actual thing that made the switch click for me, keyboard shortcuts. The frustrating thing about DaVinci's shortcuts isn't that they don't exist, it's that they don't have the same names as Premiere's for doing the same things. My shortcut preferences don't even start with Premiere. They go back further than that. Back when DSLRs started to be able to shoot video, I started editing on Final Cut Pro 7. And if you were in that world, you remember what happened in 2011. Apple released Final Cut Pro X, and it was a shock. The entire interface was rebuilt from the ground up. To a lot of us, it looked like a souped-up iMovie. Professionals were genuinely worried. Is this still a pro tool? They literally made fun of it on the Conan O'Brien show. Adobe recognized this as an opportunity. So they started marketing Premiere Pro directly to Final Cut Pro 7 users. And one of the things that they did was build in a Final Cut Pro 7 shortcut preset in the keyboard shortcuts area. You can still find it there today. Go to Premiere's keyboard shortcuts menu and there's a drop down that says Final Cut Pro 7. It's pretty hilarious. But that's what I did. That's how I moved over to Premiere. And to this day, some of my most used shortcuts trace directly back to Final Cut Pro 7. Which means, when I moved to DaVinci, I wasn't just translating from Premiere, I was translating from a workflow that's been in my hands for 15 plus years. So, if your shortcuts feel a little different from the default Premiere setup, that might be why. And it's also why I want to walk you through my specific shortcuts, not just the defaults. Here are some of the shortcuts I actually use every day. What they do, what key I hit in Premiere, and what I map them to in DaVinci. To show you what we're working with, I have a Premiere project and a DaVinci Resolve project. They both have the same testimonial video from my cousin's wedding from a few years ago. And I've taken a middle area of the clip and made it a different color, which is going to help better see visibly what's happening with some of these keyboard shortcuts that we use. Here's a Google Sheet that I have. I'll add a link in the description that has 4 columns. Column A is the key that I use. This is the key I memorize. B is the action that it takes. C is what it is called in Premiere if you're looking for it in Premiere keyboard shortcuts. And D is what I have found to be the closest equivalent in DaVinci Resolve. Let's walk through these in Premiere because we're talking about transitioning from Premiere to DaVinci. I will also show you what it looks like in DaVinci, but rather than going back and forth, we're going to stick with one at first. The first thing, and these are the 2 first keyboard shortcuts I learned, are very simple. It just toggles between 2 different tools that I use a lot. One is this arrow tool, which is called the selection tool in Premiere, and the other is the razor tool, which used to be called the blade tool in Final Cut Pro 7. That's why I have it mapped to the letter B, because that's how it was mapped back then, and selection tool is A. So toggling back and forth between those gives me the ability to do something like blade tool, make a couple cuts, selection tool, select a clip. I can delete this clip, I can click in here, and then I can delete, which closes the gap. But there are 3 keyboard shortcuts that I've learned that have dramatically sped up any kind of editing that I'm doing. And they are this. If I use the X key, it makes a cut. I didn't have to toggle over to the blade tool and click, it just makes a cut right where my playhead is. So I can essentially do the same thing then from there, but that's a few more clicks than I want to do also. So check this out. If say I wanted to have this purple clip end right here, so I wanted this area deleted, I might hit B for the blade tool, click here, A for selection tool, click on the clip, hit the delete key, click in the gap, and then hit delete key again to close the gap. But what I've done is I have mapped letter V to trim clip end to playhead. Watch this, this is awesome. Now, all I have to do is hit the letter V. Did you see what it did? It basically made a cut right here, clicked on this area, deleted it, then closed the gap so that this area here would move to the left. Here it is again, V. Amazing. You can imagine how much that can help you. Well, let's say you're on this side of the clip though, and maybe you wanted this clip to start a little later. So you could do the same thing with the X key and then hit delete and then close the gap. Or maybe you could just grab this area and drag it here and then click the gap area and then hit delete. But do you see how many button and key strokes it takes? X is 1, then I hit A to make sure I'm in the selection tool, which is the second one, and then I click, which is the third one, delete's 4, click again is 5, delete is 6. Or I can just hit the letter C, which is trim clip start to playhead. Letter C. It just moved it over. It made the cut, deleted everything to the left of the playhead, and closed the gap in 1. Let's zoom out to see it again. Amazing. I use those all the time. If I'm listening through an interview and I want to say delete the areas where an interviewer is asking questions, I just say this is an area where somebody's asking a question. I just hit the letter C and it moves it all over. Say the interviewee stops talking here. I would hit X and then the interviewee is going to start again over here. I hit C to delete this area. You can imagine how helpful that is. So let's see how those keys work in DaVinci. It's very similar, it's almost the same. The difference is in DaVinci they have these editing modes. The most similar thing to the selection tool that I use in Premiere is this selection mode in DaVinci, which I have mapped also to the letter A. But then it has this other mode, the trim edit mode. And this is important when you're using those X, C, and V keys that I use to blast through my edits. I need to be able to toggle between these two. I've mapped this trim edit mode to letter E, so I can toggle between these A, E, A, E. So let's see how these work. X key, remember, just makes a cut where the playhead is. X. There it is, there's your cut. If you remember, C key makes a cut, deletes everything to the left of the playhead up to the next edit point, and then closes the gap between these two clips that are made. But when I'm in selection mode, it doesn't close the gap. That's the only difference. So let's hit C. I'm gonna undo, hit it again. So it didn't close the gap. If I want the gap closed, I have to be in trim edit mode. So now that I'm in trim edit mode, if I hit C, it deletes everything up to the previous playhead and closes the gap. This was pretty hard for me at first. I wanted to get DaVinci to operate exactly like Premiere for my basic editing. But now I always have my finger on the E key so I can toggle into this mode. But I've noticed that I kind of like it not closing the gap all the time. It can be really helpful if I have a bunch of clips, say, off over here, and I'm sort of still assembling, but I'm making some little edits while I'm assembling. That can be really helpful to have an option where I'm not closing the gaps because it can muck up a bunch of other things. So I've actually grown to really like it. Let's go to the V key. If I wanted to delete everything to the right of here, I just hit V. It did it, but didn't close the gap because I'm in this selection mode. So if I go hit E and then I hit V, now it does it. So let's go over the next key. For me, it's the letter S. It slips a clip in place. This is really helpful if you've got B-roll clips on your timeline and they're trimmed a little bit in or out. And maybe you have it the right length that you want, but you'd rather it start and end earlier or start and end later. If you use the slip tool, you can click on it and drag, and you're not changing the length of it, so it won't roll over another clip in your timeline in front or behind, but it will change at what point that clip inside of itself starts and ends. It's a lot easier to see what I'm talking about in DaVinci. I like the way DaVinci handles it more. So let's look in there first, and then I'll show you, then once you understand, I'll show you in Premiere. All right, so for this, I've brought in a B-roll clip from my cousin's wedding. In order for this to work, I have to be in trim edit mode. So if I hit that, and then I hit S, and I click in here, you can see these white outlines, how that shows the actual length of the clip. So I have it starting at the very beginning, and it's gonna cut off some of the end, or I can have it start later and get all of the end, but I'm cutting off all of the front, or move anywhere in between there. And you can see up top what's happening. So maybe I want it to start right before the couple starts to walk in. So I might do that right here. And I let go, let's play back. Yeah. Say I wanted at this point in the clip for them to be in a different spot. I can move it. Maybe I want them to be more like there. That's how it works in DaVinci. let's see how it works in Premiere. It's a little bit simpler. I don't have to go to the trim edit mode. I just hit the S key and I can move it, and you see sort of the same side by side in your program window, but I can't see the outline that we saw around the clip itself. You just see nothing. You can see time code, but that's it. But tool does the same thing. Very helpful tool. So now let's go through a few more of these keys. We're going to do rows 14 through 16, which have to do with zooming in and out of the timeline. And we're also going to do row 4, which is selecting clips forward in the timeline. Also super helpful. So if we want to see closer in on the timeline, you could click down here and hold and drag, and you can impact the zoom of the timeline. Or you can hold on Command minus to zoom out, or Command plus to zoom in. I use these all the time. Another really cool one is Shift Z, and that zooms out to show everything in the timeline. Or you hit it again, Shift Z, and it'll zoom back to where you were last. Same thing is true inside DaVinci. We'll go Command plus to zoom in, Command minus to zoom out, Shift Z to show everything, Shift Z to go back. And this would be the equivalent of dragging that bar in Premiere if I just drag that. But let's say you're editing and you have a bunch of stuff that you want to move. So maybe up to this point in the edit, it's pretty good, but I don't need this here. Maybe I want to move something else inside of it. Maybe I like this clip and I really want this clip to happen between these. A really cool thing is if I just use my down arrow to go to the next edit. Now I hit the letter T, and that is select all clips forward. So now I've got these double arrows now that I've hit T. So if now I click, now it selects everything forward. Now I could move all of these this way, and I could bring this clip in here. Close the gap, boom, that'd be a way to do it. Let's show you in DaVinci. Maybe I want to move this clip right in here. So I'll come here, I'll hit T, and it automatically selects everything. So now if I hit A for my select tool, move this over, drag this in, close the gap. The last hotkeys I want to show you that I use pretty regularly are basically a jog shuttle situation. So these are J, K, and L. I use these to play backward, play forward, stop, pause, or speed up going in reverse or speed up going forwards. I don't go reverse that often, but I'll show you what this looks like. In Premiere, if I want to play, I could hit the space bar and play. Or I could hit the L key and it'll play. If I hit the L key twice, now it plays 2x speed, or a third time it plays 3x speed. So here's once, here's twice. So let's say I'm playing and then I want to stop it. I can hit the letter K. If I want to back it up, I can hit the letter J. And K stops it. So in this way, those keys are right next to each other. So with 3 fingers, K being in the middle, J on the left, L on the right, they can go stop, left, or right. So this really helps out a lot. Let's go see it in DaVinci. L. To play 2x speed, we'll hit L again. K to stop, J to go backwards. J to go backwards at 2x speed. K to stop. My shortcuts in both DaVinci and Premiere are available as free downloads. You'll find a link in the description. You can import these shortcuts directly into your copy of Resolve for Premiere in about 30 seconds. Now I want to be clear about something. These are not the definitive, objectively correct keyboard shortcuts. There is no such thing. These are just the ones that work for me, built up over years of editing, and they help me move through a timeline without thinking. Your workflow might be totally different, and that's completely fine. Which is actually why I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me what shortcuts you can't live without. Ones I should know about, ones you've set up in DaVinci that I might be missing. I'm always looking to tighten up my workflow, and honestly, the comment section on videos like this tends to be where the best tips live. So here's my actual advice. If you're sitting where I was a year and a half ago, thinking about making the switch, but dreading losing your muscle memory, step 1, download my shortcut files. Get DaVinci feeling familiar before anything else. That friction was my biggest blocker, and removing it changes everything. Step 2, don't quit Premiere yet. Use DaVinci for your simple stuff, a short video, a personal project, something you're not stressed about. Let yourself fumble through it. Step 3, give it 30 days of intentional use. Not 30 days of hoping it gets easier, 30 days of actually choosing DaVinci when you have an option. By the end of that, you're going to have a decision to make based on real experience, not fear. And in my case, and I think in yours too, that decision is going to be obvious. DaVinci Resolve is an incredible piece of software. I'm barely scratching the surface right now. It's free to start, it has the best color tools available for independent creators, and once your shortcuts are set up, it gets out of your way and lets you edit. That's everything I've got. Download links are below. If it was helpful, subscribe. I make videos about video production, cameras, and the tools I'm actually using. And I'll see you in the next one.